You probably have a favorite true crime show, right? Like maybe you even fall asleep to stories about unsolved mysteries. But have you ever stopped to wonder why your brain relaxes to the sound of absolute catastrophe?
Yeah, it's a wild paradox when you really think about it.
Right. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are unpacking your sources on the 2026 true crime industrial complex.
And our mission today is to basically figure out why our brains crave these incredibly dark narratives and how that instinct, fuels a multi-billion-dollar economy.
And where the ethical lines are completely blurring with things like AI and amateur web sleuthing.
To really get why we do this, we have to look at the amygdala. That's your brain's fear processing center.
Okay.
Listening to a horrific cold case actually triggers a deep survival instinct.
Wait, so it's essentially a flight simulator for worst-case scenarios? Like how a commercial pilot practices engine failure in a safe simulator?
Exactly.
So if it ever actually happens, panic doesn't take over. We're basically doing that, but with human behavior.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, a recent University of Graz study in our sources backs that up. They found 75% of true crime consumers tune in specifically to understand the psychology of the perpetrators.
Wow, 75%?
Yeah. Your brain is actively compiling a list of what not to do. It creates what researchers call an illusion of mastery.
Meaning we feel like we're in control.
Right, this subconscious feeling that because you know how a threat operates, you can somehow, control or avoid it in the real world.
That survival rehearsal thing actually explains something I've noticed about this genre. It seems heavily dominated by women. Is the data backing that up?
Oh, overwhelmingly. A Pew report shows 44% of women listen regularly, compared to just 23% of men.
Makes sense.
And a 2026 Vivint study points out women are 2.5 times more likely to use this content to mentally rehearse for unsafe situations.
Right, because women are statistically more vulnerable to violent crime in their daily lives.
Exactly.
But you'd think binging all this dark media would make people intensely paranoid.
Well, the opposite actually happens. The research shows engaging with these shared vulnerabilities reduces feelings of isolation among fans by 30%.
Wait, really? It reduces isolation?
Yeah, think about it. When listeners hear other people talking about hypervigilance, like holding your keys between your knuckles or checking the backseat of the car, they realize their daily anxieties are validated.
Oh, so they aren't just being paranoid alone in a vacuum, and actually creates community.
Exactly.
Well, where you have millions of highly engaged, relieved listeners, you inevitably have a tidal wave of cash. I mean, the global podcast industry is projected to hit $50.51 billion this year in 2026.
And true crime is pulling massive weight there. Advertisers are seeing an incredible return on ad spend.
How much are we talking?
An average of $4.90 for every dollar they put in. We're even seeing local businesses getting in on it now.
Like who?
Well, like Carry Movers. They're a direct truck moving company in Langley, BC, and they sponsor Justice broadcasts.
Wait, a moving company?
Yeah. They do it to align their brand's core value of accountability with the search for truth.
I have to admit, I really struggle with that. The cognitive dissonance is just wild.
It is a bit jarring.
You get this mental whiplash going from a harrowing, real-life tragedy straight into a chipper ad read for a local moving truck. The ethics of placing upbeat ads right next to someone's worst nightmare, it feels incredibly murky.
Right. It completely commodifies the tragedy. The victim's story just becomes a vehicle to sell services.
Yeah.
And because that vehicle is so incredibly profitable, the insatiable demand for new content is pushing platforms toward highly controversial storytelling and new tech.
Which brings us to the rise of AI, right? Networks like True Crime and Justice TV are now using AI to process massive data sets for Canadian cold cases.
Yes.
On paper, quickly processing clues sounds like a great tool for solving crimes.
It sounds efficient until you pair it with the audience we just described. A Boston University study warns about what happens when you feed AI-generated data dumps to compulsive web sleuths.
Ah, the amateur internet investigators.
Right. They consume so much raw, uncurated data that they start forming parasocial relationships.
Meaning they develop a very intense, one-sided psychological bond. Like they feel they personally know the victims or the detectives.
Precisely. And that false intimacy emboldens them to cross the line from audience to interfering vigilante.
Oh, wow.
They end up harassing real people involved in the cases and disrupting active investigations.
And it's not just the fans crossing boundaries, right? The professional creators are doing it too.
Definitely.
Just look at the massive backlash against the top-ranked podcast Wisecrack. Listeners totally revolted because the host, who is a comedian, essentially centered his stand-up routine around his own neighbor's real murder.
Yeah, that was rough.
It turned a horrific community trauma into a literal punchline.
It really shows how drastically the genre has morphed. I mean, we started with evolutionary vigilance, our ancestors paying close attention to potential threats,
Right.
and we've turned it into an AI-powered economic juggernaut.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We know we use these stories like flight simulators to mentally prepare for the worst.
Exactly.
But here is something to mull over before you queue up your next listen. If true crime is genuinely just our brain's way of managing fear, what does it say about our modern world that we need 23,000 different podcasts just to feel safe?